Welcome to the doctor's office. Today's visit is brought to you by G2A.com. Find some of the most sought after and newest gaming titles at deep discounts when you shop at G2A.com. Follow the link in the description to find out how you can expand your gaming library and start playing today at G2A.com. When I was 5, I had a best friend. Lucas was his name. He and I were practically inseparable. We'd sit next to each other in class. We'd hang out at recess and lunch in the schoolyard. He'd always come over and visit after school and on the weekends. You know, typical best friend stuff. He was fiercely loyal, even to the point of beating up other kids who made fun of me. I remember one time when this older kid called Stuart was picking on me, and Lucas ended up pushing him off the monkey bars and breaking his left arm. Stuart cried like a little girl and never bullied anyone again, much to many of the younger kids' relief. Another time, a few years after that, when a few kids, Shane, Ryan, and Jesse, used to gang up on me and beat me up, Lucas roundhouse kicked Shane down a flight of stairs and knocked Ryan and Jesse's heads together so hard they both lost teeth. When the school heard about that, I stood up and took the blame. Hell, it was the least I could do for my friend who'd helped me more times than I could count. I was let off with a slap on the wrist after showing my own bruises they'd given me first, anyway. Upon reaching high school, Lucas went to a different school, somewhere a long way away, that I'd never heard of before. And so I had to make new friends to make the days pass faster. Though I'd always catch up with Lucas on the weekends and school holidays. It was odd though. It seemed the more time I'd spend with Lucas, the more standoffish my new friends would become. He'd always show off his bruises and scars, and through some kind of best friend empathic link, I'd always seem to be able to feel them myself, as if I'd been the one in his fight stories. He'd often offer to teach me to fight for myself, but as bullying was no longer an issue at my high school, I'd just shrug it off and tell him it was a pointless exercise. "Well, don't come crying home to me when you get beat up," he'd always joke, though I knew I'd always be able to rely on him in a pinch, regardless. Years went on, and we finished our school lives, still staying very close, though our lives took us on very separate paths. I became a psychologist, while he never really liked to talk about his career. I'd often see new scars appearing on him, and more than once, when we'd catch up, I'd notice blood on his clothes. Eventually, he decided he wanted to see me at my workplace as one of my patients. I told him it would be unwise, as we were best friends. but that I could recommend a really good colleague of mine, and he eventually accepted this after much convincing. After speaking to my colleague, I recommended Lucas too. I was surprised to hear that, although he'd call and make appointments, he'd never show up to them. I confronted Lucas about this and simply got the answer, "You're the only one I can trust." Eventually, I gave in and took Lucas as my own patient, and was quite disturbed with what he had to say. He'd talk about his younger life and how he'd get beat up and then fly into a rage, and how since he was young, he's never been able to control it. He described events in such detail that I felt like they were my own memories, that I felt like they were my own memories. I mean, I had been there in his childhood, so of course I'd witnessed it happen. But parts of what he was saying, I could almost see through my own eyes. "Lucas, don't be absurd," I said to him, rather unprofessionally. "I was always the one getting beaten up, and you'd be the one to jump in and save me. Now you're the one being absurd," he would say calmly. "Look deep into yourself and tell me, did anyone else ever acknowledge my existence?"